We needed to have a showdown. Yeah. I feel like I'm pretty patient already.
Okay.
Anyways, you know what? That is completely done and dealt with. All right. We are back for another episode of Two Kids and a Startup.
I'm Cass.
And I'm Wilson. And this week we're going to be talking about relationships. Not my relationship with Cass, but more so.
There's been a lot of relationship heavy centered focused things that happened in the last week.
And that's like something that I used to struggle with the most.
Yeah, it really takes you down. You come home and you sulk for 5 days because you're so bad at navigating how to deal with conflict. And also you take it to heart.
I do take it to heart.
Yeah, you're a warm, fuzzy little bear.
Well, that, you know what? That was like years ago. I've grown.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you did. I would say yes, for sure. You for sure know how to handle it a little bit more and head front with it. But why don't you share what happened?
Well, this is a situation that happened internally within our team. I basically wrote a very critical message with starting off with, I don't get it, period.
Any messages with full stops in Slack
and
with a tag at here
at everyone
is never, and it doesn't start off with a good focus.
It was so disappointing. It was like 2 months of work, and that we had given so much feedback and we had given so much direction, and yet the result was just completely off. And I was just like, why? How? So the whole story is we presented, and just to recap, we had a very important client, this global apparel brand that we've been working with very closely for the last couple months. And last week we presented this concept, quite well received, and they have given us the green light to go ahead with the concept. And so now that we know this direction we're heading into, we need to basically do all the research, unfold all the different types of questions and answers that comes along with this topic.
And then we had someone drive it at that time. And at the same time, we also have a lot of different projects. So really this one person was driving the work.
It's just basically they took the concept and ran with it in a completely different direction, when the direction was, in my opinion, quite clear of where we're heading into. And so I felt a really big pent up type of frustration, because I felt like the lack of insight, the lack of research, that they should have known that this is the direction we're heading into. But on the contrary, he took that concept and ran with it with basically a very shallow way of approaching the topic within how we build on Roblox.
And what that meant was we lost time because we needed to submit this back. There was just a huge disconnect of what we were asking for versus what we needed to deliver.
Yeah.
And then you were angry.
Oh, I wasn't like, I feel like all my points were quite backed up by facts, and I brought in like all these examples. I shared with them like, hey, if I were to Google this, brand integration would.
That was not very nice. You were like, on a quick Google search.
Exactly.
And I learned, everyone responds an email per my previous email below. ...
Man, like honestly, like the research that I did in 30 minutes uncovered more insight for the concept and the deck than what was done being prepared for like a week.
Okay. So then you sent this not too happy email, and then what happened?
And then what happened was that I woke up to a DM
And your heart sunk. Dun dun dun.
No, it didn't really sink. I just felt like, oh man, how do I reply to this? At first, there was some, I guess, personal issues that this team member was facing, and which caused the situation to happen. And I really sympathize.
They were out of office because they had a medical emergency that they needed to attend to.
Yeah. My whole thing is that we were never communicated to the, I guess, severity of it and the duration of it. And so, of course, when you're at work, we would expect the level of work to be at a certain standard, because that's what you're being judged on, not about your personal life. And I was saying this all along, like, if you needed more time off, we understand. Give us the opportunity to know, so then that way, first of all, we support you. On the other hand, we would be able to find external help to help with our project as well.
So or just also so we know when we needed to step in.
Yeah, setting the right expectation is really key. But nonetheless, I think that, talk to Cass about it, and Cass decided that we needed to have a showdown. Yeah.
We needed to mediate because now it was on public channel where, he was responding to in a way where he was unhappy with how the fingers were being pointed at him. And so that wasn't fair. And so we scheduled a kind of one-on-one chat, and I was the fun mediator between the two of you guys. And I think we had talked about, we had went through what happened on the team member side to really understand, okay, what did you understand? What was the perspective? And after hearing from him, what did you learn?
Well, I definitely take accountability, right? The lack of, I can't say the, yes, you know what? That is really true. The lack of communication on my part, because I was doing the research. And so I didn't have a very, I didn't set up a meeting or get everyone back on aligned on the same concept very clearly. And in a way, I did it bypassing, expecting everyone to be on the same page. My expectation comes from the fact that he's the one that should be a subject matter expert in it. So nonetheless, now I'm just making excuses for myself. But yeah, the thing that I've learned is definitely to communicate better.
That's I think also one thing that is interesting here is because an added element of difficulty is that he works in the UK. And we have other team members who kind of work around the globe. So ensuring communication and the right takeaways and deliverables are being passed on when things are happening in conversation between just me and you casually. As we're kind of finalizing the concept, there were lots of banter between us about finalizing the concept, but how much of that detail is being translated. So I think what I learned from this is we really need to do a better job in sharing that information so everybody's up to speed.
Agreed.
And ensuring that they understand it, as much as we're all moving at such a fast pace, and as much as it's all in our mind and we know we got it down, but we need to thoroughly ensure that our team who's going to be running it is really up to speed on those pieces as well. Now, on the flip side, I also do agree with you that, have all the sympathy for someone if they have a personal issue. But, what we were evaluating, even though we were, let's say we had a ask of having 10 pages developed, but only one was submitted because of these, this is kind of what we were looking at. And sure, we need to, have a bit of sensitivity, but I can see why you were a little bit upset as well.
I mean, I feel like I'm pretty patient already. Like, I feel.
Okay.
Anyways, you know what? That is completely done and dealt with. I owned up to my mistakes. You know what? That was a small hiccup. It's okay. We're now on good terms.
Yeah, so, it was great. The conversation went smooth.
Yeah, we squashed it real quick.
Yeah.
which is great. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it, because I think it's important to learn when you mess up and own up to it. That was my team drums, which we have resolved. And at the same time, I feel like because that week has been crazy for us, I just came back from a 2 to 3 day conference, and that was like a really big roller coaster for me as well. And yeah, just came back from the Frontier Summit.
What was such a roller coaster about it?
Well. So Frontier Summit happens in Vancouver, and it's a summit where all the leaders from the tech frontier gathers around to be inspired, to talk about tech. And and so we have reps from Apple, Disney, HP, LG, investors from SoftBank, different VC funds that attended to this event. And I was lucky enough to be invited to and attend this summit, which is amazing. Got to be able to meet a lot of people. Now, at the same time, because we're fundraising for our startup, this was a really great opportunity for me to network with these people and establish that relationship. I saw this as a big opportunity for us to create content, to actually share within our new series called Journey of a CEO. And so before going into the summit, I already strategized with Josh on like, hey, how are we going to be able to create content for this? How are we going to be able to have interviews with people? We're not going to pitch people. We're going to do it in a very smart way. Every day we're going to interview 5 guests and have multiple different conversations and whatnot. So trying my best to squeeze every single juice out of this entire event.
And there was a strategy behind that. And how did you integrate that into funding?
The idea behind it is, now that we have established a relationship, got them to talk on as a podcast guest or shoot content with us, it becomes a way for us to establish that relationship. And then we're going to invite them to our fundraising roadshow that's happening in middle of November. So in a way, it's a longer play.
A great way to build a relationship from a cold network.
Exactly. That's the vision that we have. But when it came down to execution, it was so different from my expectation. Because when I'm there, I need to be completely present. I need to completely listen and to have those relationships and to establish that. And it was difficult for me to also be like, oh, let's have an interview, let's have a session, let's have a podcast. And I was trying to feel things out as well. So in a way, it was a little bit forced, and I didn't want it to come across forced. So the expectation and what's happening in real life became a really big disconnect for me.
I think, to kind of recap what you're saying, you were meeting with these VCs, just introducing yourself, but there's also an ask and a interest in having them support you in jumping into the interview. So there was like a kind of like a twofold need or request that you wanted to get done there.
Yeah, and it's like I wanted to have a simple ask first to establish that relationship before having a bigger ask. So I approached it completely in a different, in the wrong way.
What happened?
Completely wrong way. Because I was trying to be strategical and smart about this, it kind of backfired on me. Where I've been to so many different networking events, and I have a way of meeting people. And the number one rule that I always adhere by is, every single conference I go to, I just need to meet one person, establish deep connection with that one person, and that's all matters for me. And so if I go to like a 3-4 day conference, all I need to do is just meet 4 people, and that's it. And every time I do that, I have the best result ever, because it's authentic, it's real, and it works, right? As long as you're authentic to it. This time was different because I was trying to maximize my output. Therefore, I was trying to strategize, which was not really aligned with what's going on. And so one thing that really took me off guard was like, I didn't end up having much deep relationships being built on the first day. And I came home and I felt completely defeated. It's so far off from my expectation. And I'm like, man, this sucks.
Yeah, you came home really upset. I think you bought ice cream.
I did.
You were like, some girl broke up with me and I just need to soak in ice cream.
I did. It was, and I had zero desire to show up the next day. I felt like a fraud.
I think there was something that you also shared to me when we were at home about feeling not like they see you of value and they kind of snubbed, you know, and that's not, and I think a lot of people actually go through this.
Well, in the last 2 years, I've been relatively spoiled, I feel, in terms of going to other conferences, and I have been able to be invited as, let's say, a speaker. And once you're a speaker, your positioning is completely different. People see you differently, they treat you differently, and you're able to have much better conversation with people, I feel. Whereas the treatment that I received throughout this session was completely different because I was an attendee. And because I was an attendee, I felt insignificant. Yeah, I kind of felt like a failure in a sense. It kind of sucked. Sucked a lot. I felt like a failure because I went there with an intention to achieve something, and I felt like it was so far off from what I wanted to take away from it. And so, yeah, I didn't want to go back at all the next day. I felt like I didn't fit in. Yeah, I didn't belong there.
You know, I bet you a lot of people always go into these networking events with that fear.
They should, because they
do. 100% they do.
And so I really just slept it off. The next day, I had to remind myself of this one thing that I'm trying to do, and that's it. And so went back at it. And because of that mindset, it has completely changed the course of my entire next day. Yeah. I was able to meet and connect with people on a different level because my head was leveled. Right. I'm not trying to get anything out of it. I was just like, hey, I just want to network. I just want to be able to provide value. I just want to see how to establish a relationship. And that is purely what it is. And automatically it just flowed. Conversation flew. It was smooth. And it also took away the expectation internally of how I should perform or act. And that helped a lot. Yeah. So
can I tell you what I heard?
Please.
So that first night you came back and you were sulking and you were telling me what happened and who, and you know, I think you had an expectations of how many people you wanted to interview and connect with. And when you were telling me what happened, you know, for me, someone who wasn't as emotionally in the or having any emotional feelings tied to that expectation, what I heard was that you connected with these people. What they responded was, yes, just not right now, but let's talk tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
And so yes, it wasn't your expectation, and sure, I think the feelings of, you know, not being included or not feeling like you fit in were there and probably clouded how you looked at this whole experience. But for me, when I looked at it outside of and think about what actually happened, you were connecting with the 4 or 5 people. They just didn't say yes on the spot. They said, yeah, sure, here's my contact.
Oh, right.
Let's schedule some time. Let's talk tomorrow, since it's a 2-day event. And I think there were very fair reasons. I also think when you're networking, especially when it's a 2-day event and the first day, everyone's kind of still getting the lay of the land. Like, how much time do I have here? When do I need to spend? Now that they've kind of felt the course of what the event is look like, they're going to have so much more time to open up. And that's kind of what happened, right?
Yeah. I think it's because it's all internal, like what you were saying, like the results was there. I think like by the end of the event, it was an amazing event. I hats off to Dan Berger, who threw an incredible event, getting all these leaders in. Yeah, as a result of that, taking away the emotional piece, it was a tremendous success. Yeah.
There you go. Perspective.
I like that. Yeah. So I think takeaway is establish that one relationship, deep relationship. I think is really key.
Nice. So what happened after? What'd you do?
Well, I think that when it comes down to networking events, the first, I would say 40% is really to establish the relationship, but then the latter half is where the real work begins, where you need to start nurturing these relationships. And so now it's all about follow up. And yeah, so I actually had to like go home, write down how I met this person, what is that common thread that we talked about, what is it that I need to follow up on. And I think those are really important things for us to be able to do, because otherwise all the time, effort that you spend on meeting people and putting yourself out of your comfort zone goes to waste if you don't follow up, right? So it's very, very important to do the follow-ups accordingly.
Awesome.
So during the nighttime dinner, sitting across from me was the head of M&A at LG. And so I was sharing with him about our startup idea, and he gave me some very great actionable insights and advice. And so I'm like, wow, this guy is super knowledgeable. He's in the Bay Area. It'd be great for him to advise us along this path, because he's been there, done that. He knows everyone. He's a great fit.
Okay. You think 30 out of the 30 people you meet, is it always someone you want to bring on board? You have this beautiful skill to hire the 50 people who you meet in front of you and then bring them on board, and then you come and you're like, oh, I want to hire this person. I'm like, why? They're like, they can do this, I'm like, we don't even need this right now. And you're like, come work for me, everybody. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, I always have a tendency to do that. It's really interesting. I don't even know why. It's like, whoa, he's cool, let's work with him. Hey, he's cool too, let's work with him. Here's money, here's money, here's money, here's money. Anyways, so I met with him. This guy's like super legit, I feel. And so I was inviting him to be part of our advisory, and he said that he's too busy as for anyone of that caliber. And so throughout the entire conversation, I was just kind of listening in as we continue to network and as we continue to share stories, knowing the fact that it is probably not the right time to have him advise for us, but how can I add value to this guy's life? Right? This is all about exchanging value, always about exchanging value. And the more value that you can provide, the better. Then you can get things in return. And then so hearing what he was talking to other people about, I heard him say that he needed some type of social media presence. He wished he had some sort of presence like that. And that was when I felt like, ooh, that's my angle. That's where I can add value. And just pitched him on the idea of helping him create and be his branding person. And all we have to do is just shoot videos, or rather shoot interviews on Zoom, and I can help him repurpose everything. We can help him write captions. We can help him grow his audience, everything pro bono. All he has to do is to be able to advise for us.
Pro bono, I like it.
Oh, I thought that meant, okay, I guess that's not a good thing, but anyways.
You offer up your time.
Yeah, I feel like it's always about giving, like, and if you can give, and if they are willing to receive, I think it's a great exchange of value, because they would always want to be able to give back and reciprocate, right? And I think that has been something that has been working for the last 10 plus years, and have opened up so many different doors for me, because it's always about just like, hey, how can I be of service? And that's a story that I want to be able to share, because now someone like himself, he's like, okay, cool, let's see how we can work together, and he's interested to continue on that convo. Gave me a card, and we will continue to see how this thing unfolds.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Yeah, so my last week has been nutsos. And Weston has,
oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. So you're away during that night, and I was putting Weston to sleep at 8.
Supposedly 7.
Yeah, because he kept on playing with Jordy. But nonetheless, put him in the bed. 5 minutes later, I hear a screeching scream from Jordan. Jordan's like, Weston's out of his crib. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what are you talking about? And I went up and I realized that Weston has finally cracked the code. He figured out how to get out of his crib. And that's a really big nightmare for us, because he just goes nuts. And
yeah, he's not at an age where we can contain him. But yeah, that I'm glad you were there for that, because I was happy that you were suffering through it.
I was suffering for a good 2 hours. I literally had to remove everything from his bed, because I thought that, oh, maybe he's using the truck as like a stand to jump out of the crib. Oh, maybe he's using the unicorn as a landing pad. I took everything away and he was still able to come out. And I'm like, how the hell did he come out? It's crazy. And Jordan was like so tired that she just fell asleep, and she's like, okay, you know what, just forget about my crazy brother. And there's this moment where I felt so completely defeated, because I'm like, what the hell do I do now? Like, this guy just keeps jumping out of crib, and I can't contain him, to one point where I was just on the computer downstairs, and this is 2 hours in, and I hear this light sound of something tumbling down the stairs. Just very, very light, like very, very gingerly, like.
That's so creepy.
And then in the corner of our staircase, I see him peek out, Weston, in the most like funniest way, like, I got you, that type of feeling. And I was like, so hopeless. And then I realized, I can actually disassemble his bed, the bottom of the bed, and just let it sit on the floor.
It wasn't sat on the floor. It's just at the lowest adjustment. You know, you're supposed to adjust cribs.
No, I adjusted it at the lowest one already.
Yeah.
But now I had to like just disassemble the bottom piece, and now it's just like sitting on the floor. Yeah. And then I looked at him, I'm like, good night, buddy. I got you. So we have another half a year. Yeah, we have another half a year to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good thinking on you.
The wonders of dealing with kids. Yeah. So that's pretty much it this week. Lots of work.
Lots of relationship mending.
Yeah. Not mending, but a lot of emotional distress that's happening inside right now, man.
Yeah.
You gotta like
go eat your chocolate sundae.
Anyways, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. Let us know how we can improve. Let us know what you guys think. And otherwise, we will see you guys next week.